It was the height of the Cold War. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were at an all-time high. The fear of communism spread across America like wildfire. In this climate of paranoia, one case stood out: the trial and execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were an ordinary American couple, parents, activists, and, according to the U.S. government, Soviet spies. In 1951, they were convicted of espionage, accused of passing atomic secrets to the Soviet Union. Their execution in 1953 remains one of the most controversial moments in American legal history. But how guilty were they? To understand the Rosenbergs' trial, we must go back to the 1940s. World War II had just ended, and the United States had emerged as a superpower. With the successful development of the atomic bomb, America held a significant technological advantage. But that changed in 1949 when the Soviet Union successfully tested its first atomic bomb. How did they develop it so quickly? The U.S. government suspected espionage. Julius Rosenberg was an electrical engineer with ties to the Communist Party. The U.S. government accused him of leading a Soviet spy ring that passed classified nuclear information to Moscow. But was there proof? The most compelling evidence against Julius comes from the Venona Project, a top-secret U.S. counterintelligence program. These decrypted Soviet cables identified Julius as liberal and confirmed he was involved in espionage. Then there was the testimony of David Greenglass, Ethel Rosenberg's brother. He worked as a machinist at Los Alamos, where the atomic bomb was being developed. Greenglass admitted to passing nuclear secrets to Julius, who then relayed them to Soviet agents. Later, declassified KGB files confirmed that Julius had indeed provided information to the Soviets, although some historians argue that the material was not as critical as prosecutors claimed. While Julius's involvement in espionage is well documented, Ethel's role is far more controversial. Unlike Julius, there was no solid physical evidence linking her to the spy ring. The case against Ethel was based almost entirely on testimony, specifically, her brother David Greenglass. He initially did not implicate her, but later changed his story, claiming she typed up notes for the Soviets. Years later, Greenglass admitted that he had lied to protect his wife, Ruth Greenglass, who may have been more involved than Ethel. "I was pressured to testify against my sister. The prosecutors wanted a case against both of them." Ethel's conviction appears to have been driven by a strategic move, pressuring Julius to confess by threatening his wife with execution. When he refused, the government followed through with its sentence. Even among those who believe Julius was guilty, many argue that the death penalty was excessive. Consider this. Klaus Fuchs, a German scientist who actually worked on the atomic bomb and admitted to giving nuclear secrets to the Soviets, received only 14 years in prison. David Greenglass, who directly passed classified documents, served just 10 years. Why were the Rosenbergs sentenced to death? The execution of the Rosenbergs was as much about politics as it was about justice. The U.S. government wanted to send a clear message: espionage would not be tolerated. However, executing Ethel Rosenberg, a woman whose guilt was questionable, remains a troubling decision. In the words of Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter, "The case left me with great uneasiness." The Rosenberg trial and execution had a profound impact on American society. Some saw them as traitors who deserved their fate. Others believed they were victims of Cold War paranoia and an unfair legal system. Decades later, evidence confirms that Julius Rosenberg was a Soviet spy, but it also raises serious questions about Ethel's conviction. Many believe she was collateral damage in a political war. Their sons, Michael and Robert Miropol, have spent their lives fighting to clear their mother's name. The debate over whether justice was truly served continues to this day. So, how guilty were the Rosenbergs? Julius Rosenberg was undoubtedly involved in espionage. He passed information to the Soviets and recruited others into the network. But the extent of the damage he caused remains debated. Ethel Rosenberg's guilt is far less certain. She may have known about her husband's activities, but there is little evidence that she actively participated in espionage. Her execution appears to have been more about leverage than justice. The case of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg remains one of the most compelling and tragic episodes of the Cold War. Whether seen as spies or scapegoats, their story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of political hysteria and the consequences of justice served in the shadow of fear.